Awesome. Okay, I am going to hand it over to Nadine Simsar, the wonderful woman behind planting the seed for this project. Nadine has been, the mastermind behind it all, and we're fortunate to be working alongside her in the Momentum Group. So I'm going to hand the rako over to Nadine.
Well, hello, everyone. One thing I don't really like is having the full focus and attention on me. But that's okay. Thank you for the lovely presentation, Dana. And it's nice to recognize some familiar faces on the other side of the screen. So I'm just going to assume that you don't know a lot about the Raglan Ecovillage project. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of an insight before we move on to the updates, exciting updates that have been happening. So I started to be really interested into the eco-village concept and the co-housing concept a couple of years ago. I heard about an amazing project located in West Auckland in Ranui called Song. And I was lucky to meet Robin Allison, the founder of this project. And that's where the seed was planted for me. Like they must, it looks like an amazing way to live together and have a little food. That got confirmed a year and a half ago when I went to the south of France to visit my sister, who lives in a very alternative eco-village called the Freedom Village. And where I learned heaps there. And when it was time to leave Auckland, I lived in Auckland for 22 years. As you can see, I'm originally not from New Zealand, but from France. So I moved out of Auckland, and I decided to come and live in Raglan to be closer to my sister and her family. And also because I've heard so many good things about the town of Raglan and how it cares for its people and its environment, and the people had a really can-do attitude there. And so, so I thought, okay, that's the moment to activate this idea how detrimental the separation and loneliness is caused onto people. Thank you. So yeah, so that's how I started. That's how the project started. I started to look for some land, and we looked at some land at the entrance of Raglan. And after that, we went to the council and said, that's what we want to do. Are going to be behind us, are going to help us make that a reality. So we presented the project back in July, and there was a positive reaction of the council, which was inspiring and supportive. And then this land didn't work. The owner pulled the land off the market, and another farmer from Raglan heard about the project and actually offered to sell us is one of his land, which is beautifully located between the center of Raglan and Whale Bay. So what you can see now to the slide is our one of our mission, which is to be a flagship project that demonstrate a model of integrated system development that will become an example and inspiration of how we can develop and live in a sustainable and regenerative way that will inspire the people of New Zealand. So it's no small feat. We are aiming quite high, and yeah, like it says, we want to show that we can live better together and live better with our earth and as our environment. And yeah, how can we achieve that? Do you want to move on to the next slide, maybe, Dana? So I don't know if some of you have heard about the term Ecovillage and what it stands for. And I will just read the definition of the Ecovillage from a an amazing association called the Global Ecovillage Network, which is an umbrella for ecovillages around the world. And it says an ecovillage is an intentional or traditional community that is consciously designed through locally owned participatory processes to regenerate the social and natural environment. And as you can see, there's quite a few around the world. Do you want to move on to the next one, Dana? Yes, I'll tell you a little bit about the property. So this land is 23 hectares of farmland. It is, if you know Raglan, it's when you leave the center of Raglan and you're going towards Well Bay, that's all the valley that's on the left side. It's got beautiful, it's got beautiful terrain, and it's sorry, just yeah, so it's got beautiful terrain. It definitely will have its challenges, but also the architect that's been working with us at the beginning of the project found two big building platform that will be certainly suitable for to develop the housing part of the project. What else to tell you? The land got beautiful view at the top from you can see the ocean and you can see the history as well. And pretty, you've got Karyoi, special mountain, which is really on your back. At the moment, it's being used for farming, for cattle farming, and the orientation is northeast facing. The farmer who owns the land has been looking after the waterways really well, and it's done all. And as Fraser and we'll talk later, one of our big mission is to reforest and replant the land. So I think I've told you quite a bit about the land, and I will now invite Fraser to join us and tell us why he decided to join the project.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Fraser, and I think this is the part where Nadine's she really understates herself how much she has contributed to what I believe has been 18 months of hard work and really growing this from an idea into the vision that it is currently. We as a momentum team stepped in behind this project. I believe there's about 10 of us that stepped in to help support Nadine, and it wasn't 10, but it grew, and it's been a real pleasure working alongside like-minded individuals towards this shared purpose. For me, why I became part of this group, I think a bit of background that I was a resident to Raglan. My partner and I, Dana, actually moved to Whangaroa Raglan at the start of last year, and within about a month we knew that it was going to be the long-term home. I think we are really attracted to the chance to partner with the environment, with the land, and be in partnership, both from a how do we take care of the whenua and the land underneath us, but also how can we be a test bed for new innovative models of agriculture and ways of taking a different angle on innovation and reforestation. Also really interested in how we can shift the housing model in New Zealand, because it isn't working for everyone. And last but not least, living in community and how we might actually, we're going to grow our whānau, and we don't have a whānau, but our future whānau and children in Raglan, and we would love to do that alongside a really strong and connected community, and it's been very inspiring to be part of this one. I'm going to also hand the rako over to Rick, who's part of the momentum team and has been a key leader in this momentum group, and asking the same question. Rick, why did you decide to join this group?
Kia ora, Fraser. Kia ora, everyone. Exciting to join you guys together and share a little bit about what we have been up to in the last 6 months. Yeah, we're at an interesting point in history, aren't we? Kind of like an inflection point. And I think geopolitically and ecologically, we are facing some really, really difficult situations, global issues. And I've always been passionate about how can you solve global issues, huge issues, locally with community rather than outsource that to governments and kind of make it their responsibility. How do we solve for these issues locally? And so, of course, the pandemic also just, for me personally, highlighted some of these dependencies that we have on things like a global supply chain, how fragile we really are, and also how deeply impacting isolation can be, how important it is to live within community. I've lived next to my parents, I think my entire life, would you believe it? And I have 4 children and we've raised them together. It's been incredible and invaluable. So I know the power of community and have this deep desire for intergenerational living. And so the question I've kind of been pursuing is how do we create these kind of anti-fragile communities that are localized, that is independent, and live in a way that is kind of like true to the idea that we are Earth and we are part of this beautiful system, ecological system. We're not more important than any of the other species or any of the other land, but we're part of that system. And how can we live sustainably together like that? So I was very excited to connect with Nadine and see what she's been doing, and then meet the beautiful team that's also supporting. And it's been a blessing just to try and support where I can. So thanks, Fraser.
Thank you, Rick. And I might just invite anybody else that might, if there's any background noise, just you can put yourself on mute as we're running through the presentation. And I think just to weave all of those ideas of why we might have joined a project like this to the setting of Whangaroa Raglan, of which there's this incredibly progressive and historically rich in culture and history community here, and that is already paved so many pathways of innovation and environmental progress and progressiveness. And we're not looking to recreate the wheel here. We're looking to work alongside and design alongside Raglan's wider community. And I think I'll be talking about that throughout this presentation. So I'm going to continue onwards and let you know a bit more about what's been going on behind the scenes. So here's an overview of the Raglan Ecovillage. You can see on the right-hand side is a site plan, initial site plan that we did with a local architect. And I'm just going to run through, just a little bit of a summary. Do know that today might leave you with more questions than answers, but that's part of the fun of designing, having a community-led project, is that you can step in to help and provide your advice alongside. So we're looking at, really a group of diverse and intergenerational individuals for as potential residents, and it's quite wide, and we'll talk to what equity looks like later. In terms of dwellings, we're looking at 2 dwellings of approximately 25 houses, and if you see points 2 and 4 on the location of the site map, that's where those dwellings would be looking to be located. So that sort of bottom corner. And we're looking to build those in 2 different stages, and looking to make these called, what we'd call neighborhood clusters. Within that, we're looking to have common facilities and a common house and shared utilities as well. Looking to really share the infrastructure along a community and reduce cost of living alongside. We're looking to be a test bed for innovative agricultural solutions and models. So looking how we might shift the dial on agriculture and invite innovation into this community. as well as provide our own local food and permaculture gardens, and look to reforest what might be a significant amount of the natural area as well. With a lot of riparian planting already done along the streams, but how do we actually widen that? And being so proximate to the beautiful biodiverse Mount Karioi, how are we increasing the biodiverse region of this area? At the same time, there's the ideas of what further spaces might look like to integrate with the wider Raglan community. So what a retreat might look like, and really being a bridge between allowing, an invitation for the Raglan community to be part of witnessing what a project like this might be, as well as what future commercial opportunities might look like when we've built a residential development, that there might be the opportunity for a cafe or education center to amplify the educational work as well. Not to mention there could be co-working space for the community, but also for the wider Raglan community to come into. Other forms of shared facilities, as well as the likes of what we might look at in terms of selling some of the produce that's sold through the cafe or more. So there's some ideas there, as well as if you wanted to have a tiny home section, which might allow Raglan community or other tourists to come in and lease out for a weekend and be part of, have a feel of what it's like to be part of an eco village. Because really we're looking at what's the wider impact and how do we amplify this purpose. In terms of ownership structure, we are aiming for freehold unit titles, and a lot of that obviously depending on our pathway to resource consent, and we'll be speaking about that soon. What will the houses look like? What will designs look like? So really we're just giving concepts here and ideas. Here on the left are some ideas from a local architect, David, who's been incredible to help initiate some of this project. We have been looking at passive sustainable designs, really looking at what's low footprint on the environment, but also balancing sustainability with affordability, and how do we ensure we're not making this unaffordable for many. Also having the option of a modular design, so as your desires for a house might grow and or your family size might grow, so can an additional room or more be added. At the same time, it's likely that, and this is following the guides of other successful housing projects around the country, it'll be likely that we provide a number of designs. So there'll be a number of set designs for houses that you would then be able to choose from. And the earlier that you sign up as a resident, the priority you have on those designs, as well as property location. Our impact mission. So this is really, I guess, the why behind why both Nadine as well as the Momentum Group gathered. And what we're really interested in being able to shift and reimagining how we live together. And I guess these are our three pillars of what we imagine of the impact we imagine we could create. First and foremost is reimagining the housing system and creating affordable housing for those that are most in need. Climate mitigation and land regeneration. So opportunity with 23 hectares of land that is mostly degraded soil, and which is prime, at least for land regeneration. Like how are we able to heal and restore this land, both for biodiversity and for regeneration and more. At the same time, how do we reimagine community? How do we prioritize well-being of our community and shift the way that we might be connecting and be in a more connected environment and community that we live in. We'll dive a little deeper into each of these. I don't want to be the one that has to talk more to the housing crisis in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But these are some of the stats that we face. And unfortunately, Raglan is wearing a lot of the impact of these statistics. So on the left, you have some nationwide statistics in terms of the increase of home deposits in New Zealand, as well as how it's, how we're looking at our income versus what it costs to buy in. And affordability looks like from United Nations, a 3-to-1 ratio of your household income, which unfortunately is quite unrealistic in New Zealand. In Raglan, unfortunately, and a lot of good work that has been done from the likes of RAP, Whangaroa, Raglan Affordability, or Housing Affordability Program. I think I've gotten that slightly around the wrong way. However, they did a lot of great research and have led the way in realizing the issue of, I guess, Raglan high rental properties, or their large scale rental properties, of which has been reducing, Airbnb properties, etc., that have been reducing the rental stock in New Zealand, in Raglan. And realizing that these statistics, even the increase of 42% in Raglan property value in 3 years, in comparison to only 15% increase in the Waikato district overall. And I believe those statistics are already outdated. So it paints the problem that we face, and really we ask the question of how do we create an affordability model that might serve more people. And we broke that down into both the cost of entry, so what it might look like in terms of a deposit, and how do we make it more accessible for those that need it most in Raglan, and those that have been living here for a significant amount of time and being had a barrier being created to them actually accessing housing. How do we try to be a solution for that? And also how there might be other opportunities and the ongoing costs of mortgage repayments and more. What I'll focus on is the capital cost of entry. So the how do we decrease the cost of deposit? Just because with a number of conversations that we've had with Kainga Ora, as well as New Zealand Housing Commission, as well as the likes of impact investors in Waikato, they've really been attracted to this housing co-equity scheme because it's similar to models that they are currently running or trying to set up in the Waikato, as well as across New Zealand, and they had labeled this as market leading. I don't want to geek out too much on the details, and I do want to make sure we get through the rest of the deck, but just letting you know that the summary of this would be that the first set of dwellings might include the option to purchase 15% of a second dwelling. So if you were to buy into the first set of dwellings, you own 15% share of one of the next houses in the next set of dwellings, which would be decreasing the cost of a house deposit for a resident or for a future resident to then buy into the second set of dwellings. And that's using what might be middle-class New Zealanders then buying into the first set of dwellings, being able to make it affordable for those that wouldn't have that ability and otherwise, and taking 15% straight off of their deposit, making it a lot more affordable and possible actually for them to find housing, while also providing you with a housing investment in a premium property market that is Raglan. So I won't dive into that too much more. There's some more details there, and happy to answer any questions later on. But it was taken really positively from impact investors and Kainga Ora and more. Rick, actually, is there anything you would like to add to the affordability model there?
I'm happy to take questions on that later. I think you've done a good job at giving a outline of that. Just that the idea is that those who can afford to buy houses at market value, you know, in a beautiful village like this, that's not the target audience, but because we'll be a incorporated society, essentially a charity that does the development, there is a margin in the development. Instead of giving it to the usual developer who would usually be, you know, running off and funding his boat, we're proposing that that money goes into an affordability fund, which then becomes a co-equity scheme to support those who fall under the criteria to apply for support with their deposit, essentially, so they can get into the space. So yeah, that's all I'll add now, but happy to take questions later.
Cool. Thanks, Rick. And I think it's nice to note that the next step is a feasibility study that explores these models further and validates that they are all possible and viable. And we are also exploring additional models such as rent-to-own or progressive housing schemes as well. So this is just painting a picture of what is to come in the feasibility study. Yeah, next, I guess we look at the climate response and environmental impact that we imagine making and being able to with a project such as this. And to give some context, we're looking at 23 hectares of ecological land. It's located, for those that aren't in Raglan, between Raglan Township and Mount Karioi, and neighboring some of that beautiful biodiverse maunga, the Mount Karioi, which is also a seabird sanctuary and coastal environment, becomes a real opportunity to help extend some of that regeneration. 90% of the farmland is ripe for regeneration in terms of the current state. It's been farmed for many years, and the ability to have native forestation or permaculture gardens to improve the soil as well as fresh water quality and more is within our reach. And last but not least, how do we redesign some of our approach to agriculture? And how do we be a testbed for some more or different innovative solutions and be able to be host to new ways of regenerative agriculture. What we imagine is that we have the chance for some significant carbon sequestration by reforestation, pollination pathways, riparian, furthering the riparian planting that has been going on, and really looking at the ability to regenerate 30 to 40% of the land in native forest. And there's an opportunity that comes alongside that with carbon credits as well. Regenerative agriculture, as I've mentioned previously, and how do we really minimize the environmental impact of the home design, natural resources, recycled resources, looking at the likes of passive builds and more, and how do we set up our infrastructure in order to ensure that we are focusing on minimizing our footprint. Next, we're looking at really from a community level, how are we reimagining how we live together and putting community well-being first. And I think that is what draws a lot of us towards the idea of community living, because it isn't necessarily the easy option. I like the quote that Nadine mentioned in one of her first community talks, which was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that certainly stayed with me. And all the rewards and the huge rewards that really come with going together and going far. Here's some of them, really decreasing isolation in community members, positively impacting inhabitants and quality of life, reduce cost of living, ability to be self-sufficient, shared facilities, being part of the wider social network, and how do we benefit, residents' social support, the effects of residents' social support. And here's some of the ways that we're reimagining how we live. Wondering if Nadine, is there anything you want to add to the picture here?
No, I think just mentioning, maybe that's one of the things that I'm most excited about, of the beauty of how can we be more, because we are together, because we will be confronted to other people, because we will take decisions together, because we will have conflict together, and how we can help and support each other be the best version of ourselves. And I'm really aware that it's not always easy, from all I've been hearing from people who give testimony about living in community. I think I heard somewhere say, if you want a fast path to enlightenment, go and live in community, and definitely, I think I'm quite excited by the possibilities and the challenges.
Thanks, Nadine. I think a big piece for us, both in design of the project, but also when we talk about affordability and who this affordability is for, is really looking at how we design for equity, and really that question that will guide us. And here are just some ideas, and I think really working alongside the community of Whangaroa Raglan is maybe obvious, and really putting honoring Te Tiriti o Waitangi at the forefront of how we design and how we are working and seeking leadership from local hapu, and really seeking their guidance and leadership in this project. At the same time, ensuring all voices are at the table, and that we're really working to not just design with the future resident community, but really all the incredible organizations and leaders that exist in Whangaroa Raglan already. And how do we be a bit of a centerpiece, or a project that at least incorporates and integrates with the good work that's already been done, versus trying to recreate the wheel in any way. There's already incredible initiatives that are here in Whangaroa Raglan. And naming some of those initiatives, here are some. I think I've been really impressed with Nadine and our team's efforts in connecting and working with the initiatives and many initiatives in Raglan and wider Waikato, incorporating or including many of these projects along the way to really seek advice from and just listen to. And that continues, and this is a long-term project. Some of the experts behind the project, you've met Nadine and Rick tonight. They're not ones to blow their own whistles or toot their own horns much, but Nadine really comes with her own past life in business, and as a well-being expert as well, setting up a very successful yoga studio in East Auckland and more. And Rick, that has led transformational property development projects and childcare around Aotearoa. And the likes of Zola, who represents the regenerative housing communities, as well as the Global Ecovillage network globally, and as a representative in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Not to mention the many co-housing projects that already exist in New Zealand, and that we've been connecting with and learning from along the way, and really ensuring that we're listening and learning from their history and roadmaps because they've lived this a few chapters before us. Supported by industry professionals, we have the likes of many professionals that are guiding us along the way and doing the work when it comes to the property development aspect, as well as landscaping and regenerative design, and some of Waikato's most renowned or highly renowned planners as well. Where have we come from? This paints a bit of a picture of the history of the project, and yeah, dating back to the start of last year, and I believe it was previous to that as well, that Nadine started designing and creating the beginnings of this project. She's been working with the likes of Robin from Earth Song, and we've been supported by Tākaka Co-Housing Project as well, and many other experts that have been leading us along the way, alongside Raglan experts. I think you can see that Nadine talked about the pre-approval meeting with Waikato District Council, and conversations with the Deputy Mayor and senior leadership team have continued, and we have what I'd like to say is positive support, and knowing that it only goes a certain to a certain extent for resource consent, but it has been really positive so far. And furthermore, the community meeting, and you can see the likes of the Momentum Group forming, the high-level program and budget being acquired, and talking more to where we're at now. And I think to frame that, we're at a point where I think it's quite a inflection point for the group, and we've really come from having, I think, outweighed by probably the hurdles in front of us, and I think they've been decreasing along the way, and we've been de-risking many of the challenges, and some of the more significant challenges that lie ahead of us are the likes of reaching resource consent and being able to fundraise for the purchase of the land, of which is the purchase agreement is for July this year, and being able to fundraise for meet the funding for the purchase, as well as to initiate that is the feasibility study that we'd need to be able to fund, and the resource consent that would lead to. The greatest challenge ahead of us is that we won't, at this stage, won't be able to achieve resource consent until after land purchase. And we've been doing our best to problem solve and reverse those two. And yes, we are finding ourselves in that situation at the moment. I wonder, Rick, if there's anything you want to add to the situation that we're in currently?
Yeah, man. Just to give you an idea, we're zoned in rural land, which currently allows you to build one house and maybe a 60 square meter side house. It's not going to host all of us. I'm sorry, we can try, but it's not going to work. So we have a pretty major task ahead to convince council and gain the support of the public community that this indeed is a good idea. Now, we started off, and I think I started off being reasonably skeptical of our chances, but over time, we've met with key leaders in the council and worked with phenomenal planner that they are open to us submitting resource consent with a full design as what we've imagined. However, we recognize that it does fit outside of the council tick boxes. And so therefore it'll most likely be a publicly notified resource consent, which means that the task ahead for us is to design the village and create momentum and to create connection within community and ensure that it's an integrated project, so that when we submit the full application, that and when it does get publicly notified, that we have a high level of support for the project. So it is got there is no probability I can put in terms of chances of our success, except that I think the moment for a project like this is here, and that if we do what we can, then and we do really make sure that it's from the ground up, it's birthed by the community, and it's got a lot of contribution and input from those who matter, and we're making a positive difference both for the earth and for each other, then I do think that there's a good chance that we'll be able to get resource consent. Cheers, my man.
Thank you, Rick. Well, I think that brings us to the, I guess the challenge ahead of us, and normally how we'd look to fundraise for a project such as this, and the way that it has been done, well, not traditionally, but let's say from the number of recent projects that might fit our mold, is that we would, upon having resource consent, be able to fundraise through potential future residents providing a deposit and ensuring that we're providing them a return on that deposit that is guaranteed, treating it almost as a loan for us to then go out, purchase the land and start the likes of the development. And unfortunately, the way in which we are set up to have resource consent come secondary, we meet the challenge of not wanting to put that forward to future residents until we actually have resource consent. So instead, what we're looking to do is be able to raise money to be able to, from a small number of investors, to provide a loan to purchase the land and reach resource consent. Now that total, the land of 3.5, initial feasibility study and resource consent comes to 3.8 million. And currently that's the challenge in front of us. So we're wanting to be transparent about where we're at and the road that we're on in terms of that fundraising. So really, to unlock the full potential of this project, we're looking for a number of investors that will realize a monetary value as well as a social return, like a monetary and a social return on the investment, on their investment. It comes with both a decent challenge ahead of us, as well as optimism. We've already raised $1 million of the $3.8 million, and we're really optimistic about the chance to be able to raise this money. Being conscious of time and really wanting to hear from our community here today, I'm just wanting to put that as the next step out for us. I'll let Rick and Nadine speak to if they want to share any other steps ahead of us. But at the same time, we're still moving forward with resource consent progress. And I guess our call to action for the community that has showed up today is if you do have contacts that you think might fit the persona of a investor that's looking, they'd be interested in helping partner in a project such as this, then we'd love to hear from you. And we'll leave some contact details at the end of this presentation. Rick or Nadine, is there anything else you want to add there before we throw it back to the team to hear from who showed up tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think you've covered it pretty well, and you just summed up where the next steps were and just highlighted. Actually, it just takes time. It's about creating connections and having lots of conversations with the people from Raglan, the political scene, the investor scene. So it's spreading the word, and people love the idea. People like the ideas about how we get the council to help us instead of instead of making it more difficult. How can they help us?
Yeah, for sure. So next steps, resource consent and funding for the land. I think my feeling is that funding will most likely come from someone who has capacity for this right now, but who wants to see this project come to life as much as what we want to see it come to life. And you know, that's I think part of the appeal here is that there'll be a financial return for these investors, but really you will be part of birthing something into Raglan and into the earth that potentially can make a significant difference across the country, to be honest, because it'll be the first of its kind that's been allowed through a rural land. So yeah, I think, like Nadine said, is getting the word out there and speaking to people who are as passionate about this is what we all are.
Cool. Thank you, Rick. Here are the contact details in case there are any kinds of support that you want to provide. Yes, we put our greatest challenge forward, but we're also wanting to hear from you if you're interested in helping from a support from a distance, or whether it's connections or any sort of expertise that you might be able to provide that you've aligned with while we've presented tonight. And if it interests you to be part of the core group, the Momentum group, we'd also be interested in hearing from you if you're able to reach out to Nadine and let us know what some of your expertise are. And if that aligns with what we're needing right now, we'd love to involve you. And of course, if there's interested investors that you might know, or just people that you think it's worth having a conversation with, please reach out to us. Yeah, we really appreciate any support that's provided. I'm going to hand back over to Dana, who I think is going to facilitate some questions, and I'm conscious I've been hogging all the time, so I'm going to throw it over to her. Kia ora.
Kia ora, team. Thanks for all of that. Just want to let everyone know, if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to put a question into the chat or raise your hand through the Zoom function. And we can answer those questions in the time that we have left. So we do already have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one coming from Mike. Do you already have knowledge and required certifications to do this, or would there be oversight or external company or organization doing the development? I can jump in and answer that one. This is a community-led project. However, as shown in the presentation, we're working alongside some of the leading planners and project developers in the country or in the Waikato to work on this project. So we're definitely bringing on the expertise where necessary. We have a question from Dave. Do you have any idea at this stage of a range for the cost of the housing unit? Would anyone in the Momentum team like to answer that one?
You go, Greg.
It's what we can say for sure is that it would be probably at market valuation when we get this through, comparatively for a 3 or 4 bedroom unit. But you would also have access to, of course, facilities beyond just your normal 4 bedroom unit that you'd have just in a normal subdivision, because we are going to be part of a wider ecosystem and co-sharing facilities and all that kind of thing. That's probably the best we can say, because we don't know the moving cost of materials right now, and we've done a high level feasibility on the cost of infrastructure and the cost of building. But for me, I would feel, for me to say, hey, it's going to be $700,000 for a 2 bedroom unit right now would be doing a disservice than anything else, because we owe it to everyone in the community to do a thorough investigation before we kind of come out with actual numbers. That's just from my opinion. Some of our other team may have some more input on that.
We've got this way. I think it's quite like what you said, where we do have some figures, because we hired James to come up with some with some numbers for the total cost of the project. But as you all know, at the moment, there's a huge rise in material cost, and we don't know what will, let's say if we start building in 2 years or 2 or 3 years, it might not be accurate.
Thanks, Tim. We have another question here from Kathy. Can you speak more about the feasibility of the rent-to-own option? Fraser?
Yeah, maybe I can add a little bit there. We've the feasibility study that would be the next phase is about diving deeper into these different affordability models. We spoke to the likes of the co-equity scheme, but we are not being narrow-minded about what this might look like. We talk more to the co-equity scheme because it's been what Kainga Order and these impact investors outside of Kainga Order have been interested in and relate to a lot of the models they're speaking or working with currently. And not to say that we're not investigating rent to own as well as progressive ownership models as well. So it's more about trying to figure out what will work best alongside the community that we're designing, as well as who it is that we're really trying to create affordability for. And I think that's still to be really identified and would be identified in the feasibility study, who within Raglan, who has been living here and being blocked from housing and unfortunately don't have access to, and how do we make that possible? And we wouldn't be the deciders of who that is. There would be a governance structure to be deciding who that is, and probably from existing the likes of local hapu and or the Raglan Affordability Program, RAP as well.
Thanks, Fraser. We have another question here from Louisa. Would there be housing options for one person, i.e. a one-bedroom place or even a shared house with other individuals?
Yes, there will be. At the moment, we're definitely looking at different options from 1 bedroom to 4 bedroom, but also, like Fraser mentioned, into the designs of the houses. The architect mentioned the possibility of modular house in terms of sharing different people sharing together. It's not something that we've thought about yet, but why not?
Love it. Thanks, team. Appreciate all these questions coming through. If you do have any more questions, please send them through to the chat. But I have a question for you now, and I'd love everyone to use the chat function. And if you could please just type in the chat what it is about the Raglan Ecovillage project that excites you. As we said, it's so important for us to listen to future potential residents and collaborators. So we really want to know what it is that excites you about this project. So if you could please type in your answers into the chat, and we'd love to see that and see what's coming out of the community. And also, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to put them in there as well. So I'll just give you a minute or two for that. And once you've written yours in, you can have a bit of a scroll through and see what others are sharing, which is often, I find, quite exciting to see and quite reaffirming as well. What we've got coming through so far, being part of a supportive community, living close to people and place, a closer community, reforest and regeneration, eco-minded community, giving more people the opportunity to live in beautiful Whangaroa. There are some really, really beautiful ones coming through. Thanks, team. If there are no more questions from the community, I think we can begin to wrap up this session. For everyone that attended tonight. I just want to say a big thank you on behalf of the Momentum team. We have been so enjoying doing this project, and we are excited about the future community that we might be living with, which may be made up of some of these faces in this room, which is amazing. Right now, you might just be a face on the Zoom screen, but you know, maybe down the line, we might be neighbors, which is a pretty beautiful, beautiful feeling. So we are excited to continue to connect with you as we move forward in this project. And we will be in touch. We will be in touch via email. So look out in your inbox for a message from us. And yeah, we will be continuing to hold events like this and events in person going forward, which we would love to invite you all along to. So yeah, big thank you from the Momentum team and I. And to close us this evening, I'll just share karakia. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I roto, tuia I waho, tuia te here tangata, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao, haumia hui e.
Hi, yeah.
Big thank you once again, team, for joining, and we look forward to reconnecting in the very near future. Ka kite.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, we hope to hear from you. Any small question, any big question, and if you come into Raglan or to Raglan, please reach out, and we'll love to come and show you the land.
It's beautiful.
Ko Marie.
Ko Marie.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Much.
Thanks, team. Beautiful faces.
I think they're talking about you, Jennifer, not me.
Oh, yeah, we are talking about you. Hello.
Our youngest member.
Yeah.
He's ready to move in.
Ka kite, Mike.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.
Ka
See you,
kite,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Dana, for amazing facilitation. Thank you, Fraser.
Thanks, team.